They say you never really know how much a heart can hold until it breaks. My name is Eleanor. I'm 82 years old. And just 3 weeks ago, I buried my husband, Harold. I don't say that to shock you. I say it because sometimes, when we grow old, people stop listening. They assume our stories are dusty old pages in forgotten books. But oh, if only they knew, some of the richest tales live in the wrinkles of our smiles and the silences of our grief. I met Harold when I was just 19. It was a Sunday, after church, and my heel broke on the steps outside. He offered to help me up, and I, stubborn as ever, said I didn't need a man's help. He just laughed and said, "Maybe not, but it's a nice way to meet one." That was 63 years ago. We didn't fall in love overnight. No, ours was a slow dance. The kind of love that builds through shared meals, quiet walks, and evenings sitting on the porch saying nothing at all. We married 2 years later, in a small backyard wedding under a willow tree. He always said that tree reminded him of me, graceful, strong, and soft in the breeze. I said it just dropped too many leaves. Life with Harold was never perfect, but it was ours. We had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. We raised them in a modest home in Ohio, full of warmth and noise. He worked at the post office for 40 years. I was a school librarian. We had simple routines, Sunday pancakes, Wednesday game nights, summer road trips with sticky fingers and cassette tapes. We grew old together in that house. The floors still creaked the same way they did when we moved in. Our bed sagged in the middle where we both met each night. And the fridge always had his favorite root beer, even after he was diagnosed. That diagnosis. That cursed word. Cancer. He was 78 when they told us. Aggressive. Terminal. Maybe a year. But Harold didn't take to dying like most men. He made jokes, asked about dinner, and said, "Well, we'd better enjoy what we can." And we did. We took small walks, even when he had to use a cane. We watched old black and white films. We talked. My God, we talked. About everything we never said when the kids were small and the bills were big. We talked like 2 teenagers again, about dreams, regrets, the funny things we never told anyone else. There's something about knowing time is short that makes everything feel more precious. The sound of him turning the newspaper page. The way he always made a little sound when he stood up. The way his hand reached for mine during storms, even in sleep. He passed away at home, in our bed, holding my hand. I didn't cry right away. You might think that strange. But grief isn't always loud at first. Sometimes it's a quietness so deep it rings in your ears. I just sat there, holding his hand for hours, listening to the wind in the willow tree outside. The same one we married under. In the days that followed, people came. Neighbors. Family. Even the mailman brought flowers. They said things like, "He had a good life, and you were lucky to have each other." And they're right. But they didn't see the little things. How he always folded his socks in perfect squares. Or how he kept every letter I ever wrote him, tied with a string in a box under the bed. After the funeral, the house was too quiet. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was hollow. Echoing. I'd reach for 2 mugs instead of 1. I'd start to say something only to realize he wasn't in the room. That's the thing they don't prepare you for. How grief lives in your habits. I walked into the living room yesterday and found his slippers by the chair. I just stared at them. Like they were waiting for him to come back and finish watching the ball game. I left them there. Not because I'm in denial. But because somehow, they anchor me to the life we built. To the love that shaped me. I want to tell you his story, not just because he was a wonderful man, but because in the telling, I remember how to keep living. How to carry his memory forward not as a weight, but as a light. In the coming days, I'll share what these past weeks have taught me about grief, love, and learning how to wake up alone at 82 and still believe in life. But for now, let me just say this. If you love someone, tell them. Not just in words, but in pancakes and porch talks and saved letters in a box. Because one day, you'll reach for their hand in the dark, and only memory will be there to hold you. And when that day comes, may your memories be warm enough to keep the cold away. The day after Harold's funeral, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the same four walls I'd looked at for nearly 60 years. They hadn't changed, but I had. Something inside me felt foreign, like a misplaced piece of a puzzle that no longer belonged. It wasn't just about losing Harold. It was about losing the rhythm of a life we built together. No one tells you how quiet grief is. People expect sobs, dramatic moments, loud crying. But mine arrived like a whisper, like a fog that crept in and wrapped itself around everything. It was in the chair he used to sit in. In the echo of his footsteps I still swear I hear. In the stillness of a room that used to be filled with casual conversation and soft laughter. I poured 2 cups of coffee that morning. Out of habit. One for me, one for Harold. When I realized what I'd done, I didn't cry. I just looked at the second mug as if it had betrayed me. Then I quietly poured it down the sink, feeling the hollowness settle in a little deeper. The routines we built, mundane, repetitive, comforting, they suddenly became reminders. The bed felt too big. The dinners felt pointless. I haven't cooked properly since. Not because I can't, but because setting the table for one is a ritual I can't bring myself to perform. A plate for one feels like a declaration of absence. And silence, once comforting, now stretches too long. People say things. They mean well. He had a good life. At least he didn't suffer. You were lucky to have such a love. And they're right. But grief doesn't follow logic. It doesn't care that we were lucky. It doesn't care that I had 60 wonderful years. It only knows one truth: he is gone. And the world is louder without him in it. And yes, there's anger. Not the kind you shout. The quiet kind that simmers beneath the surface. Anger at time. At nature. At the way life just keeps going. Cars on the street, television shows, mail being delivered, as if the world didn't just lose someone extraordinary. Sometimes I sit on the edge of the bed and look at his slippers. They're still by the chair in the living room. I haven't moved them. Not because I think he's coming back, but because they remind me that he was here. That he existed in this space. That he laughed, and breathed, and loved me in this very room. I found an old note from him in the back of a cookbook. A simple reminder scribbled in his clumsy handwriting: "Don't forget the nutmeg, love you." I held it in my hands and just stared. I didn't cry right away. I smiled. Then, about an hour later, I wept until my bones ached. That's how grief works. It sneaks in when you think you're fine. Some days I feel like I'm doing okay. I'll sweep the floor, water the plants, make the bed. And then it hits me: he's not just gone today, he'll be gone tomorrow, and the day after that. That's what they don't tell you. The permanence. How you keep relearning the loss over and over again. I talk to him sometimes. Not out loud. Just in my head. I tell him about the birds in the garden. About how the tomatoes are doing. About the small things that used to fill our days. I don't know if he hears me. But it helps. It keeps the connection alive. No one teaches you how to be alone after 60 years of being we. I don't remember who I was before us. Everything about me was shaped around his presence. His voice. His opinions. His rhythms. And now I'm learning to live with an echo. The loneliness isn't just about missing his body next to mine. It's about the absence of being seen. When you've had someone for that long, they become your mirror. They reflect back who you are. And without that reflection, I sometimes feel like I'm fading. But still, I get up. I make the coffee, just 1 cup now. I sit by the window. I read. I cry. I laugh at memories that sneak up on me. I remember the way he used to mispronounce parmesan on purpose just to annoy me. I remember the way his hands looked when he buttoned his shirt. I remember everything. Grief doesn't disappear. It becomes a part of you. Like a scar that aches when the weather changes. Like a shadow that follows just out of reach. But slowly, you learn to carry it. You learn that some days will be unbearable, and others surprisingly light. You stop expecting closure, and instead, make space for the ache. This is what I've learned. Grief is not a sign of weakness. It is a continuation of love. It is love's echo. And if I still feel this much, even through the pain, then Harold is still with me, in some quiet, invisible way. And somehow, that's enough for now. In the weeks that followed Harold's passing, I found myself drifting through the hours like a visitor in my own life. I moved, but I wasn't truly moving forward. I breathed, but not deeply. Every day felt like a task, not a gift. And yet, quietly, without fanfare, something started to shift. It wasn't a big moment. There were no signs, no revelations. Just little things. Like the morning I walked past our garden and saw a single purple iris blooming near the back fence, one I don't remember planting. I stood there staring at it, barefoot, bathrobe fluttering in the breeze. And I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks, a flicker of beauty. A tiny spark of wonder. It didn't erase the pain. But for a moment, it softened it. That's how healing begins, not with declarations, but with whispers. I started saying yes to small things. A cup of tea with a neighbor. Sitting outside for longer than usual. Listening to the birds. I began journaling, not grand poetry, just thoughts, memories, questions. Some days, all I could write was, "I miss you." Other days, I wrote about the way he used to laugh from his belly or how he always left the cabinet doors open after making toast. And then there was the photograph. It had fallen behind the dresser, probably years ago. When I found it, dust-covered and faded, I sat on the floor and traced the faces with my fingers. It was us on our honeymoon, Harold with hair, me with a wide smile and a floral dress. We looked so young. So hopeful. I didn't cry. I smiled. Because I remembered how alive I felt in that moment. And for the first time since his death, I didn't feel guilty for smiling. That's another thing they don't tell you, how guilt and grief often come hand in hand. The guilt of laughing. The guilt of forgetting, even for a second. The guilt of imagining a life where joy could exist without him. But I'm learning that honoring his memory doesn't mean living in sorrow. It means carrying him with me as I keep going. I've started cooking again. Not every night, but some. I made his favorite stew the other day. Sat at the table alone. I lit a candle. And when I tasted the broth, it was like he was there, teasing me about the salt, asking for seconds. I talked to him while I ate. And it didn't feel strange. It felt right. One morning, I went for a walk through the neighborhood. Same streets, same trees, but everything felt different. More vivid. Maybe because I was paying attention again. I noticed the kids waiting for the school bus. The old man on his porch watering the plants. The dog that barked at every passing car. Life hadn't stopped. It had just been waiting for me to rejoin it. I even started volunteering once a week at the local library. Just shelving books, helping children find stories. One little girl asked me if I was someone's grandma, and I said, "Yes, I am." And for a second, I felt rooted again, part of something beyond the silence of my home. Grief didn't vanish. It still arrives uninvited. Like when I reach for the second toothbrush or see an ad for one of his favorite movies. But it no longer crushes me. It hums in the background like a second heartbeat, reminding me that what we had was real and worth missing. I've learned to talk about him without tears, sometimes. To remember him as more than the man I lost, but as the man who taught me how to love deeply. I see him in the decisions I make. In the way I now pause to enjoy the sunlight or compliment a stranger or dance in the kitchen when no one's watching. One night, I had a dream. We were sitting at the lake where we used to go in the summers. He was younger, smiling, looking at me with that amused look he always had. I asked him, "How do I go on?" And he said, "You already are." I woke up with tears on my cheeks, but also with a strange calm. Maybe my mind needed that closure. Maybe it was something more. I don't know. But I held on to those words. You already are. I don't think there's ever a clear moment where you feel healed. I think healing happens in layers. In the way you start choosing life again. In how you open the curtains instead of leaving them closed. In the phone calls you return. In the mornings you wake up and feel the weight just a little lighter than the day before. I never wanted this part of the story. But it's mine. And I'm still writing it. I've learned that grief can bring strange gifts. Clarity. Presence. A deeper appreciation for the moments we so often overlook. I've learned that even in loss, there is love. And that love, if you let it, can be the bridge between the life you had and the life that's still waiting for you. I miss Harold every single day. But I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm slowly, softly, learning to live again. If you're listening to this, maybe you're younger than me. Maybe you're in your 50s, your 60s, or maybe you're still falling in love for the first time. Wherever you are, I want to tell you something I wish someone had told me a long time ago. Love is not always glamorous. It's not just candlelight dinners or anniversary cards. Sometimes it's picking up socks off the floor for the 100th time. It's sitting silently in a hospital room. It's fighting over stupid things and then laughing an hour later. It's years and years of choosing each other, when it's easy, and especially when it's not. You think you'll have forever. That you'll grow old together. That you'll always have one more summer, one more trip, one more night to hold hands and watch TV. But forever is a myth we all want to believe in. Don't wait to say, I love you. Don't wait to forgive. Don't wait to ask for what you need. I spent years learning that silence never solved anything, that vulnerability is not weakness, and that the people we love cannot read our minds. Tell your person what they mean to you. Not once, but often. Touch their hand. Look them in the eye. Laugh together even when things are hard. Especially then. Because the ordinary moments, that's where the real life is. Not the vacations or the big announcements. It's in folding laundry together. In cooking dinner side by side. In the quiet goodnights and the everyday hellos. I wish I had written down more. I wish I had recorded Harold singing in the kitchen, even though he was always off-key. I wish I had asked him more questions about his childhood, his dreams, the things he never said out loud. I thought I had time. That's the cruelest thing about love. It's always deeper than you think. You don't realize how much someone is woven into your life until they're no longer in it. But even now, even in the quiet after his absence, I know this, love never dies. It changes shape. It becomes memory. It becomes legacy. It lives in the way I smile at strangers now. In the way I show up for my friends. In the way I've learned to sit with someone else's grief and just say, I'm here. I'm 82. I've buried my husband. I've cried into his old sweaters and whispered into the night hoping he could still hear me. But I've also danced barefoot in the living room. I've made new friends. I've planted flowers. I've read books that made me laugh and cooked meals that reminded me of who I used to be before I was someone's wife. And here's what I've learned. Life doesn't stop when love ends. It reshapes you. It softens you in places you didn't know were hard. It teaches you that pain and joy can live side by side. So if you're listening, if you still have time with someone you love, treasure it. Not in the grand gestures, but in the little ones. The way they stir their coffee. The sound of their breath as they fall asleep. The way they always forget where they left their glasses. One day, those will be the things you miss the most. And if, like me, you've already lost that person, I want you to know, you are not broken. You are not too old to begin again. You are not too far gone to find meaning. The world still needs your stories, your laughter, your strength. You are still here. That matters. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to cry in the cereal aisle when you see their favorite brand. It's okay to smile when you remember something they said. You don't owe the world a timeline. You only owe yourself grace. And when you're ready, open your curtains. Let the sunlight in. Step outside and look up. The sky is still vast. Life is still happening. And you, dear heart, are still a part of it. I miss Harold. I always will. But I carry him with me, not as a weight, but as a quiet source of strength. And every morning I wake up, I choose to keep living. Not because I have to, but because I still can. Love doesn't end. It evolves. And if you let it, it will guide you home again. You're not alone. You're never too old to begin again. And the best chapters may still be waiting. So, if this story touched your heart, pause for a moment. Think of someone you love. Someone still here. Or someone you carry in memory. Reach out. Speak your love. Live it fully. Because one day, these ordinary moments will be the ones you wish you could relive just once more. And if you're walking through grief, know this, you are not alone. Your pain is real, your story matters, and your life is far from over. There is still beauty waiting. Thank you for spending time with me today. If this video resonated with you, share it with someone who needs a little hope. And if you'd like more stories, more wisdom, and more warmth from women who've lived, loved, and learned, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, take care of your heart. And remember, you're never too old to begin again.